Thank you. I'm going to call to order our regular City Council, Successor Agency, Stanton Housing Authority joint regular meeting for Tuesday, May the 13th. If you'll please all join our supervisor, Doug Chafee, in leading us in the flag salute.
The flag of our great nation. Please remember the freedoms that it represents more than any other nation.
America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council Agency Authority Member Barrios.
Here.
Council Agency Authority Member Taylor.
Here.
Council Agency Authority Member Warren.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Vice Chairman Torres.
Here.
And Mayor Chairman Shaver.
Here.
Thank you.
Item 5, special presentations and awards. We're going to present a proclamation declaring the week of May 15th to the 18th as National Public Works Week within the city of Stanton. Do we have someone here?
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Guatemala will be receiving this. Thank you. If you'd come up to the podium. Thank you. Go ahead, Mom.
This is the City of Stanton Proclamation, National Public Works Week, May 18th through the 24th, 2025. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that I, Donald Torres, and Dave J. Shaver, City of Stanton, and on behalf of the entire City Council, do hereby declare this week of May 18th through the 24th, 2025, to be National Public Works Week throughout the City of Stanton, and in doing so encourage the citizens of this community to join with me in recognizing and paying tribute to the efficiency of the citizens of, or efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff the Public Works Department, the importance of the work they perform, the substantial contributions they make in protecting our health, safety, and quality of life, and their dedication to the City of Stanton. City of Stanton, thank you.
If you'll join.
Test. More pictures? Sorry.
I see you right now. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
And just a quick thank you to all the work that Public Works does for us and the way you treat our citizens, treat each other, and all the great things you do. So thank you, thank you.
A little bit extra. Caesar, we know that you have a lot of distractions besides doing your normal maintenance work and keeping the city up. And as we were discussing on some of the other things that happen around here, it's like Groundhog Day. You get up and it's the same thing over and over, and you don't seem like you're making much progress. But I will tell you that the city, over the past several months, has looked great despite some of the disadvantaged things that we have to do that influence and make things hard on you. But if you let each and every one of your members know that all of us, especially your council members and I, really appreciate all the day-to-day work that you do. And, sometimes it's hard because you go back and that same mess is in the same spot, but you guys persevere and do a great job. So let them know that I would appreciate it on behalf of all of us, okay?
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. We are now on item B. This is a presentation by Cal State Fullerton in the partnership with Office of Supervisor Doug Chafee, 4th District, Orange County Board of Supervisor, sharing their mission with the City Council and providing information on their Healthcare Ambassador Program. Doug, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. I know we've been on a number of boards together, so everywhere I go, I seem to see you in some capacity. And also, congratulations, Mayor Pro Tem Torres, on that, and thank the other 3 council members for your diligent work in the city. So I'd like to share with you today a new program. I think you'll find it in keeping with your community logo, which is community pride and forward vision. I know you take pride in taking care of your residents, particularly making certain that they have an opportunity to achieve well-being. And this is a new program. It's certainly forward vision, I think, when you see what it is. So I'm pleased to be here to introduce this new initiative that we call a Community Health Ambassador Program, or CHAP. CHAP is in partnership with Cal State Fullerton's Master Public Health Program to address a critical issue, when to go beyond treating illness by focusing on underlying causes of health disparities and start promoting overall well-being in our communities. We're excited to pilot CHAP here in the city of Stanton. This program will provide valuable data-driven insights into the specific health challenges and needs of Stanton residents, as well as provide a model for other communities and cities to emulate. The program will be agendized at our next Orange County Board of Supervisors meeting, which will be May 20th. At that time, we'll provide the funding for the program, so it's not going to cost you anything. I want to express my sincere gratitude to our partners from Cal State Fullerton. This program wouldn't be possible without their expertise and dedication. I also want to extend my appreciation to Stanton City Manager, Hannah Shin Haydarn, who has met with our team numerous times at this point to provide her insights in the program. And you're very fortunate to have a city manager that not only does a great job, but truly cares for what she's doing. So she has shared her deep knowledge of Stanton's residents' needs, which is critical in shaping this program. I'd like to introduce the team from Cal State Fullerton who will give the details about the program. We have with us today Dr. Michelle Wood, Professor and Chair of the Department of Public Health. Oops, I'm sorry. There they were. Jacqueline Gonzalez, Director of Local and Community Relations, and Dr. Tabashir Nobari, Assistant Professor of Public Health. They'll go through the program, then I want to come back for a few closing remarks after they make the presentation. Thank you all for giving us this opportunity this evening.
Thank you, and just give me a few moments to get your presentation queued up.
Okay, thank you. It is a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for this time and space. I'm Michelle Wood. I am professor and chair of the Department of Public Health at Cal State Fullerton. My partner in creativity, not crime, is Dr. Tabashir Nabari, and she helped design this program with me. Before I go any further, I want to extend sincere gratitude to Chairman Chafee and his wonderful staff team for generosity, for their support and enthusiasm, for understanding the importance of public health, for understanding the power of higher ed, and understanding how when you pair higher ed with community collaborations, you can achieve really great things. I'm so grateful. I'm looking forward to telling you a little bit about this program. This is going to be sort of a high-level overview. Maybe it will be. Yes. No. There we go. Okay. So this is our department, our faculty. We have a lot of enthusiastic, energetic faculty who love to collaborate. Public health by nature is a discipline that is really engaged in the community, and our department faculty are very much committed to that. We are using a model designed in Costa Rica as a framework for this program, and we have faculty who have taught this model in Costa Rica in study abroad, and I'll come back to that in a little bit. Our students are recognized for being really good at working in communities. A lot of students really have great campuses all over Southern California, and students learn a lot of things in textbooks. One of the things we hear over and over is our students are really good applying what they learn in the world. So we think these are strengths for this program. Let's see if I can advance. And our MPH program, we have the first MPH program that earned accreditation in the county. We are expecting a cohort of 30 students coming in the fall. We spent the last 2 years redesigning our program because public health as a field turns over so rapidly with pandemics, with all the things happening in the environment. And our new program, even more than our last program, is designed to teach our students how to apply what they are learning in real communities, in real organizations in the world. So all of their assignments and projects will be embedded in real organizations in the community, and we are excited about that. Okay, so this is a 2-year program running from June through May. It is based on the EBAIS public health model. And this is it's a model that emphasizes prevention and holistic care focused on healthcare access and preventing disease. It involves teams, interdisciplinary teams that work together with agencies within a community. And so we have designed the program to fit into our new MPH program, which rolls out in the fall. There are a few different components to the program. All of the student projects, all their assignments, as I said earlier, will be housed within, contextualized within a real organization, not some made-up pretend organization to write a paper. These are going to be real projects. So they're going to involve things like doing needs assessment, developing program plans, developing evaluation plans, developing grant applications, all real products. So those are their assignments. They will have internships that will be housed in organizations in the community. There is a good chunk of faculty support designed to help our students make the transition from what they learn in class to the real world and the organizations that they're paired with. So they will be getting a lot of faculty support beyond just their instructors. So there's a team of faculty designed to help work with and support our students. And then ultimately, we are hoping to disseminate and develop plans for replication if all goes well. This gives just an overview of the timeline. So we're going to do a bunch of program planning over the summer. In the fall, our students will be working on needs assessments for their partner organizations. They will, in the spring, design programs for those organizations. In the summer, they will be doing their internships. Some of those might extend into fall. We'll see how that goes. In the fall, they will be developing evaluation plans so they can get some evidence of how those programs worked out. And then they will be doing their culminating, this is their big project before they graduate, so where they pull all the things they learn and do together. So that kind of gives you a timeline for what they're going to be doing. This program is based on 3 major goals. The first is to improve health indicators, and we have a faculty member, Maria Kolelat, who is going to be assigned to help students focus on this goal. And then the second one is increasing access and coordination of healthcare services, and Dr. Shana Charles will be leading that, and she has expertise in healthcare access and insurance. And then our third goal is enhancing healthcare outcomes by addressing the social determinants of health, and Dr. Nobari will be leading that goal. Okay, so this is, I was making a correction to this slide, and I accidentally deleted the 0. So we anticipate a cohort of 30 students, and they are spread across 3 different concentrations. So they will come in with different areas of expertise, different backgrounds, and we will pair them up together to mix them up so they will have stronger teams. So most of our students are interested in community health, then epidemiology, and then environmental and occupational health and safety. So we're anticipating about 8 student teams of 3 or 4 students who will be working together. Our hope is that the program's going to benefit everybody, our students, the community, and the faculty. We are hoping that the faculty expertise that we bring can help support the good work that is already being done in Stanton. We imagine our students, as they graduate and go on to live their lives, may end up working in places and contributing to the county, as many people in this room have graduated from Fullerton and gone on to do. So we see them bringing expertise that they gain back to their local communities. We really welcome ideas and input from partners in the community. We are working out a communication plan over the summer. So we will have more detail on that as we move forward. And there will be opportunities for agencies to engage more with the program in a variety of different ways. None of this is required, but it's welcome. If folks want to engage, we can find ways to make that happen. And as I said, we're hoping to disseminate and apply what we learn here in other communities if all goes well. And that is a broad overview of what we're hoping to do. We're really excited. And I think the chairman had some, do we do questions first? Oh, no. Yes, we are going to take questions. But
Do you want to do closing remarks?
Sure.
Okay, or we can do questions before.
before, no, just for the Q&A.
Oh, you're the show. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
sorry.
Got it.
Sorry.
Okay. No, it's a pleasure working with Cal State Fullerton and to bring them here with the expertise they represent. So I can't thank them enough for actually bringing the program to my office. And as I mentioned earlier, this will be something that's very forward-looking, and we hope that it'll benefit not only Stanton, but then Stanton becomes a model for other cities to follow as this process it comes in. So it's a commitment to proactive community-driven solutions that addresses our root causes, trying to get in there of health disparities that you may see in this community, we see in other places as well. We deeply appreciate the collaboration of the Cal State University at Fullerton, my hometown, team. And the expertise they have is absolutely essential. And to see talented students that are joining in this process, I think initially they're going to do a lot of data research to understand the demographics of the community and try to assess where the gaps are. So you may not see them running around. I'm not sure that's what you want to see anyway. But there's a lot of study to be done, a lot of contact with some of your healthcare agencies to see what they think. And finally, I have to thank you guys for your time this evening and your willingness to support this work, which we consider very important. And you're welcome to join in if you wish, have the time, and we will report to you through your city manager as often as you like. So thank you all for allowing us into your city, which I find interesting with its odd demographics and fingers going this way and that way. But it's a interesting city to study and has a lot of interesting things. And it's my smallest city in my district. And I'm delighted to be here and to present this program to give you the first opportunity to benefit from it. So thank you all.
Thank you, Supervisor Chafee. It's always nice to have you stop by. I have some questions. I think Gary has some questions. Do we have? Since Gary wanted to ask the first question, it's probably the same question I'm going to ask, so go ahead, Gary.
We're very frustrated on community health outreach toward our homeless population. Our chief of police is frustrated, I think, is a fair assumption. And we can't really get any help for the people on our streets mentally. We know that they need mental help. They walk into traffic, they're violent, they're abusive language, they're not safe to themselves. And it's not all the homeless, but it's a fair number of them. Will you be looking at that and maybe coming up with suggestions? We were so hoping that Care Court was going to do something, but so far it hasn't done one thing for us.
This is a good question, and we've talked to the city manager about this already. I think that if this is an issue that's it's going to emerge in a needs assessment as something important that needs to be addressed. There are a lot of important things that can be addressed, but this is also a thing that's sort of in the middle of, it's right there. If people are on the streets walking into, that sounds like a lot. So I think that's a topic that our students would be prepared to dive into and do some very good needs assessment. We have faculty with expertise in this area who can help contribute. And ultimately, if one of the assignments is to develop a grant proposal, that could be a subject. And so I don't see our students providing care, but I do see them helping to define, describe, and recommend approaches and possibly develop some ideas for that to address the problem. So, that's a very good question. And I want to just say we brought in brochures about our program, so you can read a little bit more about us. Are there any other questions?
Here in one of your goals, it says to increase access and coordination of healthcare services. I know it's very difficult to get people to continuously stay within a healthcare plan and continue to go to their appointments, but how does the increased access look like?
Well, I would say, do you want to answer, or do you want me to start and then you can join in?
I'll let you start.
Okay, I'll start answering this. So that's not my area of expertise. I study earthquakes and disasters and that sort of thing. I used to study HIV and substance use. But we do have faculty who have expertise in registering for insurance equity, what are the barriers to being engaged in various health care plans. And so the program involves their commitment to working with our students in collecting the data, identifying the barriers for people. We have money also, we have some resources to collect data from people in the community and provide some participation incentives so that we can get some good data. So my expectation is that our faculty and students together are going to figure that out. And that is why we have brought in, it's not just the faculty teaching the methods, it's people with subject expertise along these lines. So hopefully that will make a difference. Do you have anything to add, Taba?
So I think as Dr. Wood mentioned, again, just the needs assessment will shed light on kind of some of those issues as you brought up. And so when they're developing that program to address it, they'll understand, or the needs assessment will have identified kind of the issues that they have to address, whether it's raising awareness or helping enroll, whatever that is.
And the demographic of the, needs assessment, that we'll be looking at, is this a broad look at our whole population or just specific demographics?
Not really. I think the students will be looking at the city as a whole. And if they're housed in an organization, if they're working with a particular organization and that organization focuses on a subpopulation, they would also look at that group. And Taba's really, Dr. Nobari, who directs our MPH program, is really the person who knows the nuts and bolts. Is that right?
It is, yes, and I think it also depends on the community partner they're paired with and kind of the interests of the community partner and what topic they're looking at specifically. But I imagine some groups will be looking more broadly, others might be looking at subgroups.
And I'll add, thank you, our students aren't going to decide this on their own, and they're not going to decide what they focus on with the faculty. They're going to be working with an agency, an organization that says, hey, this is what matters. This is the problem we're faced with. These are the things we're trying to accomplish. And our students will be responding to that. So.
As the mayor knows, I like to tease him that he's the only one up here that didn't attend Cal State Fullerton. So I just wanted to say great work to your team. This looks awesome. Broadly, are you looking at this as a high-level approach, more looking at data, or in contrast, is it boots on the ground, trying to talk to people? Where's the approach coming from?
Definitely high level, and because our students are going to be doing internships in Stanton with the organizations they've developed relationships with, there is an opportunity for them to work alongside folks in those organizations, but that really needs to be negotiated with the organizations and what they want and are comfortable with. So I see some potential for some different kinds of experiences, but definitely the data, but it's going to be a lot more driven by conversation and input from the organization.
And thank you. And I wanted to state the inverse of what Councilmember Taylor had brought up regarding homelessness, is that in studying community health, you can look at lead indicators that might cause somebody to find themselves in homelessness. So you might get the opposite result of how they got there. So
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Other questions?
Yeah, if you don't mind. I think probably one of the things that I think would be great is if your students could take on the task of problem solving. Mm-hmm. I think if you gave them the task of what solutions they could come up with to help eliminate the problem of not being able to address the concerns of transient homeless people that are on the streets that have both alcohol and drug abuse.
Yeah.
I found it very interesting that actually I met with Sheriff yesterday, Barnes, and he has a jail of about 1,500. Of those 1,500, he has 500 in treatment. I also wondered, why wouldn't we ever want to get them into the mainstream? We have all these special health care programs funded by the county, unique things. maybe we can make available to them the same type of things that anybody sitting in this room with their medical plan could use, whether it's mental health, drug addiction, anything along those lines. Maybe they would be more comfortable being in the mainstream. One of the things that we always know that you have to overcome is getting them on board. And that is a hook or an incentive that you're going to have to come up with. The bottom line, though, is finance. And I know that until we get some type of financing, nothing we do is ever going to come to fruition.
Yeah.
I know that there's grants available. I think the thing that bothered me the most about the governor's statement with his new concept of ordinance, which is already established, by the way, and we already follow it, is the fact that he gave billions of dollars to help us with health care and people that are problems with alcoholism and that. To date, the city of Stanton hasn't received one penny. And so the problem is that where did that money go, which I don't really care, because if we're going to get another $2 or $3 billion, I think it's an opportunity for organizations like you to take that money and make it more productive with the program that you've established yourself relative to the cities in Orange County. That way it's a checks and balance. Because right now we have no checks and balances. I'll be quite honest with you. The majority of that money went to groups, organizations, businesses, corporations that just absorbed the money, paid their overhead, paid their employees, and did absolutely nothing. And here we are. We're going to have another shot at it. Let's not make the same mistakes we made last time. If there's anything that our staff, our council, our sheriff's department, anybody can do to help you, please pick up the phone and give us a call. Because otherwise, it's not going to happen unless we do teamwork. But just remember what happened recently and what's happened in the past, and don't make those same mistakes in the future.
Yeah.
And you know what's really sad? And I've already mentioned this. We have got a gentleman living over here on the street on Catella. How long do you think he's been living there? I'm not going to hold it. 5 years. Okay? He sleeps on that street.
Too long.
He stays on that street,
Yeah.
and he's not going to leave. I visited him today. Just always like to stop to make sure he's okay. Because you know what? As I said before, unfortunately, his life will probably be short there. But he's also a very angry young man, old man, and he might harm somebody. That's the things that we have to help. Those are the people we have to help. But we also have to protect and help the people that live in our community, okay? And if we don't do that in a symbiosis, it's never going to work. So I challenge you to get your group together, use your brain power, come up with a program. If you want to use Stanton as a test, we've been the test for everything. You know, whether it's room key, home key, first this, first that, we don't mind doing it. We spent $12 million of our own money, and it was very successful in homing. But we're having no success in helping the people that are on the streets of Stanton that need that help and do not want the help and do not, it's like I was talking about, it's like Groundhog Day. Every day it's the same guy, same talk, same guy. Now that to me is a waste of time and energy unless it becomes productive. And to me, that's the responsibility of government. And right now, the city is doing the best we can. But I really appreciate you guys coming tonight. And like I said, believe it or not, this group right here is really into this stuff. And so is our city manager. So you can call any one of them, and they'll be happy to help you if you need help. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you. Again?
A quick comment. It's not just one person. He's giving you one example.
Oh, yes.
How many would you say we have, Mr. Mayor?
No, I think
Yeah.
100? It's scary.
If I may ask the mayor, can we take a group shot? With any luck, we might end up published in the Daily Titan, and the mayor pro tem could show his classmates.
That's because John graduated magna cum laude from Fullerton, okay?
But no, thank you. I think that this data at the end of the day will be able to get so much insightful information as to the needs of the community. You know, a lot of times when we have plans, you know what I mean, or we have assessments in a community, it usually comes from like the municipal level. But it's really great that we're able to get this assessment without, you know, us, a small city, being able to, you know, expend so much money for something that's so desperately needed. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just so you know, we have 3 graduates up here from Cal State Fullerton and 1 student attending Cal State Fullerton.
And my daughter will be receiving her doctorate degree from Cal State Fullerton on the 19th.
Oh, that's wonderful. Congratulations.
Your family.
All right. Okay.
We'll get a picture with you. Come on up, Supervisor, bring your troops up, all of them. Don't let them hide there. We want your staff in the picture.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And hold on, I got 2 more phones here. Ready? 1, 2, 3. And 1 more phone. And 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Thank you. We sure do.
That's Bernie Sanders.
It's stupid not to do.
It's Bernie
100%.
Sanders.
I agree.
I agree.
I agree.
But it's almost cheaper. But it isn't.
And by the way, if they would have spent the billions of dollars for that, we would be sitting here talking.
It's not expensive. It's just a middleman.
It's better than British healthcare, and British healthcare is pretty damn good. It's much better than British.
Now we get to hear the good and the bad and the ugly from Sacramento.
Let's hope not.
There's going to be a lot of bad and ugly. I don't know.
All the ones we won, then you can tell us the ones we
Yeah.
lost and tell us the ones we're still fighting.
Sandwich
That
it all
makes better,
between.
right?
Yeah.
How they're going to balance the budget.
It's, yeah, you'll find out tomorrow morning with everybody else. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Eric O'Donnell with Townsend Public Affairs. Good to see everyone again. I'm joined here by my colleague Anastasia Heaton, who you might have seen before. So Anastasia has been with our team for a couple of years now, but she's been working on the grants for the city of Stanton for about 2 years specifically. So I wanted to bring her to kind of give a little bit of the update for me and for you guys to meet her as well. So moving forward quickly, is it ready now, Trish? Okay, good, got it. Right now in Sacramento, we are busy, in the busy season. So as a brief recap, we're in the first year of a 2-year session. The last couple of weeks, we had a policy committee deadline going up until May 9th. That's where all 2,500 bills roughly get heard at some point or decide not to be heard in a very brief span. So it was a very busy blitz up in Sacramento. I think I was physically there for the last 5 weeks at some point during the week. So it is definitely full swing. Right now, we are focused on the next deadline, which is May 23rd, which is the fiscal committee deadline. So all the bills that have passed their policy committees now have to go fight for money and see if we can afford to do the policy. Some bills don't have any cost, but there's quite a few bills that do have some sort of cost to the state when it comes to implementation. Like I said in my comments right before this, tomorrow we're going to get the May revise. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And then June 6th is when bills have to pass their House of Origin. So Assembly bills have to pass the Assembly, Senate bills have to pass the Senate, and then they switch and do it all over again until we get to September. June 15th is always our constitutional budget deadline in California. The last 3 or 4 or 5 years, it has been sort of a fake deadline, I'll call it, because they always pass a budget by June 15th, but it is never the final budget, and it is never an accurate budget. And that's mostly because we don't have a clear picture by June 15th. So speaking of the budget, brief recap here. The governor's projected budget in January was $322.2 billion. He was, it's crazy to think about it now, but the governor was projecting a mild surplus in January based on the numbers from his department. That was before the LA wildfires, and that was before the inauguration of President Donald Trump. A lot has changed since January. It's been a long 4 months in terms of the state budget impacts. So our state income tax revenue and our corporate tax revenue right now is actually higher than what he projected in January. We're doing very well on that side of the equation. However, the other side on the expenses and the impacts out of DC, it's going to be astronomically higher than what our surplus and our benefits are doing. So all this to be said, tomorrow morning the governor will be doing his May revise announcement at around, I think, 10 a.m. It is not going to be good. I do not know the full extent of it, but I was with the Senate Majority Leader last week, Senator Lena Gonzalez, and she's predicting anywhere from 10 to 50 billion as a deficit. The reason that the range is so large is because of the unknown impacts out of DC. I was just reading an article just before I came up that said that just the tariff policy alone is about a $20 billion hit to the state budget, and that's early in that calculation. So a lot of unknowns. I wish I had better news in terms of what that means for our state budget. There are some special funds that are protected that are not going to be impacted, but every time we have budget swings, we have education funding swings, we have housing funding swings, et cetera. So it will trickle down eventually over the next couple of years. Talked about a little bit of this. The California DC dynamic is I can't understate that enough. It's the budget is a precarious figure, but when it comes to policies out of DC, especially those that are maybe counter to California's ethos that the governor and the legislature are going to want to backfill. That's where the real cost comes in. So think Medicare, think Medicaid, think social programs. California is going to do anything they can to backfill that to make sure that there's no impact to the residents of California, but that's tens of billions of dollars of impact when it comes to the state budget. I am not expecting any new programs this year that are going to be sweeping. You saw a couple days ago the governor announced a reorganization of the state's housing departments for better efficiencies. Not a lot of money in there, and no new money in there for sure for some of those programs. But they really are trying to be clever when it comes to making sure they have efficiencies in their government right now and making sure that they're able to do what they can with what they have. The stock market spiral, or the turbulence, I should say, is going to continue when it comes to the impacts of the state budget. So that is just a reminder to everyone that we get a lot of our money from capital gains taxes here in California, and as the markets go, so does our budget. Moving on to a couple key bills. Last time we did not talk about any bills, so I wanted to bring some to your attention. The first one is maybe the most impactful immediately to the city. Sorry that's so small up there. But this is a Brown Act modernization bill. So this is something that is been a long time coming, ever since COVID. So if we remember, in COVID-19, we were operating currently under AB 2449 regulations, which gives the city flexibility in order to be meeting remotely for certain council members, I should say, to be meeting remotely. And then you have to have a two-way communication with the public. If you do that, there's a lot of conditions that way. That authorization expires January 1 of next year. So something has to happen this year, or we go back to what we were pre-COVID, which was everyone show up, or if you wanted to teleconference in, you had to put your address on the agenda, you had to invite the public in wherever you were, you had to, serve them milk and cookies and let them speak, so it was a little bit of a strange policy when it comes to our technological advances in society. But this is the attempt by the Senate local government chair to do a comprehensive reform. It is a tough pill to swallow. I'll be candid. It is not easy to implement. Couple of the things that you have to do: you have to two-way communicate every single council meeting you have. The public has to be allowed to public comment via Zoom or any other platform for every single meeting you have. Council still has to show up in person, and you still have flexibilities when it comes to needing to be sick or taking care of a relative. But for the most part, it is a two-way communication mandate for every single city council meeting that you have with the public. That right there is a barrier and a challenge when it comes to technology and access, et cetera. But you also have to provide enhanced language accessibilities. You have to provide translation services upon request for anyone who requests it ahead of time reasonably. You have to translate your agendas on your website into any language that is spoken by 20% of the people in the county. So that's an interesting metric they're using, because even though you might have 20% of a language spoken in the county, doesn't necessarily mean it's 20% of a language spoken in Stanton, but you still have to post on your agenda for those languages. There are several counties out there where that might be 3-4 languages that they have to translate their agendas to every time. So it is a big impact bill. It is not a bill that we have a position on necessarily. There's a lot of concerns out there. There's a lot of cities that are supporting it, and there's a lot of cities that have concerns about it. So I think it's just one thing to monitor as we go forward the rest of this year. This is not the final version of this bill by any stretch of the imagination. It will continue to change, but it is going to be a unfunded mandate. There's the best way to say it. It will be more difficult to implement with the goal of increased transparency for the public. One final thing I'll say about this is during our conversations with the author's office and the committee staff who are essentially writing it, is they will admit, because I know you're going to ask me a question, they will admit that they do not know how to address the Zoom bombing issue, right, of the public misbehaving on the Zoom. They do not know what to do about that. They're still at the drawing board, definitely, and ready to accept feedback, but they are very candid that they're going to push this through even without having to solve that. So, moving on to our favorite topic, land use legislation from Senator Wiener. There's another one this year, SB 79, land use public transit. So this is his attempt now at making not high rises, but tiered high rises, 7, 6, 5 stories around high quality transit stops. making sure that that is being able to be streamlined ministerially ministerially without affordability covenants on it, which is a key distinction that he's not backing down from right now. So he does not want it to be affordable necessarily, but he wants it to be market rate or whatever pencils. But it is a big change from current policy to be able to upzone around those high-quality transit stops for up to a half a mile, and it goes in from there. The closer you get, the higher you can go. So it is a concern overall. I think the more interesting concern for a city like Stanton is that it secondarily allows transit agencies to adopt objective standards on their own property for residential developments, even if it's not a transit stop. So a lot of times transit agencies own property throughout a jurisdiction, and it is allowing them to do basically whatever they want on that parcel, absent zoning of a city, if it's for housing. So think of the SB4 from last year when it came to churches that had a lot of ability to build whatever they wanted housing-wise on their property. Same thing for transit agencies throughout the city. SB 634, I should mention that did pass its policy committee, very contentious policy committee, I might say. It barely passed by one vote, which is a sign that it is not sailing through, and it will have some concerns going through, especially into the assembly, where a lot of these housing bills get really, interesting. SB 634 by Senator Perez, regarding homelessness. This was a bill when it was first introduced. This is a new member to the legislature. When it was first introduced, it basically included provisions on a city adopting an anti-camping ordinance. It was strangely at issue with the Grants Pass case that we're all familiar with in terms of the Supreme Court decision that allowed cities to be enforcing these anti-camping ordinances. It was pretty aggressive that it kind of tried to undo that, which you can't really do in a bill. So it got a lot of pushback from Cal Cities and other groups, and I'm pretty sure the city had an opposed position on that earlier on. And so that, in another contentious hearing, that bill was pared down and significantly amended, and now all it does is that first bullet point, which prohibits a city or a county from adopting an ordinance that prevents nonprofits from helping homeless in their streets. There were some cities out there in the news that had ordinances that did not allow anyone to give food or shelter, like a blanket or a tent, to anyone sleeping outside, in the concept of don't make it comfortable for them, and they'll figure out a way to get around it. This bill just says that you can't prevent that now. So because of that, it is probably going to move a lot easier in the legislature. It would not have moved before with the language that it currently had.
I wanted to give credit where credit's due. That was brought to my attention by our city manager in an email. And once we got that, then we brought it to the League of California Cities, and then we got it to everybody in the state. And so because of that chain, we were able to defeat it. I agree. I think it was probably the biggest, probably had the most opposed positions by cities this year, was probably this bill earlier on. A good bill, if we take a couple seconds for the good bills. AB 650 by 7-member Pappen. I know that's a lot on the screen, but it is a really good bill. So I want to talk about it a little bit. This is all about the RENA process and giving us more time to adapt to what our RENA processes are. So we typically get our RENA numbers, I believe 24 months before you're required to adopt. This would increase it to 30 months, give us an extra 6 months to understand those numbers, understand how to zone for it, understand how to approach HCD with it. But most importantly, is it requires HCD to have a standard reporting format for their housing elements. It standardizes the process. It makes the process clear. When HCD responds to you and gives you a list of what you need to get in compliance, that is the list. That's it. Right now, when HCD gives you a list to do, you do the list, you give it back, they give you another list. And it goes on and on and on until you get certified, and you never really know when it's going to end until they say they're done. This bill would say, you're giving me one edit that has everything you need, and if I fulfill all of these, we are certified. And so it is hopefully going to be making Cycle 7 a lot easier. It is doing pretty well in the process right now. I don't know how it's going to, the fear is that it's going to get killed in appropriations, because I think HCD is probably going to say it's going to cost them tens of millions of dollars to implement this statewide. But we'll have to see. That'll be in a couple weeks.
Okay, moving on to loitering and sex trafficking that we've talked a lot about and the city's been very involved in. So the first bill, this is a bill we've supported. This is a bill that we were working on in the interim session with Assemblymember Rodriguez's office. So if you remember from last year, Assemblymember Freddie Rodriguez introduced a bill relatively similar to this. Freddie has now termed out. His wife took his seat and won the election, and now this is her bill. Pretty much doing the same thing. So continuing on with the bill package that her husband had before he termed out. But essentially this reverses Senator Wiener's 357 from a couple years ago that removed loitering with the intent to commit prostitution as a misdemeanor. So this brings it back as a misdemeanor. It also has a lot of protections into youth and child trafficking, child sex trafficking, to make sure that you're not unfairly punishing someone who's being trafficked underage against their will. So it is more of a balanced approach that Cal chiefs, police chiefs have put together throughout the year. Obviously, it did not get met with a great reception in Sacramento, especially from the LGBTQ caucus and Senator Wiener. So it is a 2-year bill right now, so it won't move forward the rest of this year, but it'll be back next year. But I was talking to Assemblymember Rodriguez's office last week, and they were able to negotiate an interim session hearing, like a informational hearing on this subject in the fall, which is a good news. That's just more light on the issue is great. I'm trying to see what I can do to get the city of Stanton in that room and potentially presenting at that meeting about what's happening here. And then they also committed to having a policy committee hearing on this bill in January next year. So good steps forward. It's slower than we would like, but good steps forward to understand the full issue. And then I will remind you that Senator Wiener is termed out the next election, so there will be changes one way or another when it comes to this conversation. And then related to this is probably the most, yes, sir.
I just wanted to point out that Connor Medina and I are inviting the chair of the safety committee down to visit Stanton and a couple of other areas along Beach Boulevard.
Yep.
And he's agreed to come. I think it's also important to know that even though it's a 2-year bill, it's probably the first safety bill to make it out of the safety committee and since dinosaurs roamed the planet. So I think that's a good thing too.
Yep.
Maybe we'll have a little luck. Go ahead.
3 years ago, right, when loitering for the purpose of engaging in prostitution was still in effect, how much was that actually used in court? Was this widespread use, like being able to use this law?
Yeah, and so, and I apologize, maybe I should have had some context because we've talked about this in years prior, but I think in Stanton it was being used quite often as a diversion tool for what we were seeing on the streets. The problem was in other places in the state that Senator Wiener was claiming it was being misused to unfairly target trans women, women of color who were not prostitutes, but the police just wanted to harass them, according to the senator. And so this was his fix, was to get rid of it that way. But since then, he has been asking for data about show us the problem via numbers, and the problem we can't because we don't have the tool to cite, so we don't have the number of how many people we're citing because we don't have the tool, and it's kind of...
I mean, I wonder if you could grab like the collection of data before it was, not taken out of law. But for me, it's interesting because loitering for purpose of intent is kind of like you're looking at a person and based off of their clothes and area, you're basically deciding whether this person is trying to prostitute or not. So for me, I didn't know it was such a strong legal argument to have, but yeah, that's just me.
Yeah, go ahead, Councilman.
Yeah, regarding this issue, it reminds me of a lot of the situation we dealt with massage parlors. I mean, getting a massage, very innocuous kind of purpose. However, when state law changed and allowed them to bypass local regulations, that's when it started developing into a greater situation, and it took about 2 years for the legislature to come back and fix that matter. But there's an associated cost that in that meantime, how much did that cost us to enforce and so forth? And much of what we're seeing with this current situation, we've already, just in this last year, invested $750,000 in trying to combat the issue, which unfortunately, a pen in Sacramento has cost us that much money for what was not as much of an issue as we were facing before. And that's money that could have gone right back into what we were just talking about with Arena, housing, our homelessness problems and so forth. So, thank you.
Yeah, I will say that this was not on the agenda, the radar in Sacramento the way it has. Like the last couple of years have been very much increased attention to this issue, and there's one more bill about this after I'll talk about, but it's definitely rising to the top.
I'll just make one more statement, but our Star Street has not looked better in many years, you know what I mean? So I wonder if we would bring this law back, if we would really see a difference if, we've been doing our best on enforcement, but we'll see how that plays out.
Well, that's an excellent point because John and I were at the Central Intelligence Service for the Sheriff's Department. We got the tour, and they have this big room that has the wall is as long as this wall, and it's got all of the different cameras up. Stanton has about 35 cameras, little pictures. And so if you look down Beach Boulevard, it looks like a hubbub, like they do those really fast things on movies. As you go down to Star Street, from about this far as Star Street past Adventure City, it's like dead. There's not one thing going on there. And so if we could just block the other 6 streets off, we'd be okay. No, but seriously, it made a big difference. Go ahead, John.
One more thing I would add is that we know in 4 days from now, we're going to have a group that's going to be coming out and protesting human trafficking along Beach Boulevard in Stanton on this very issue. I mean, so there is community concern out there for the side effects of what this law has resulted in. So thank you.
Yeah. There's one more bill I want to talk about on this. This is, I encourage you, because of how ground zero we are on this, I would encourage everyone to Google this bill and read the history in the last couple of weeks. It has been nothing short of tremendous of what's going on in Sacramento when it comes to this bill. But AB 379 by Assemblymember Krell took the intent took the conversation we're talking about loitering in a different direction. Still helpful to our cause, and we've supported the bill, but it made it a misdemeanor to loiter with the intent to purchase sex, so more going after the John side of the equation rather than the victim side. And so when it comes to this bill, it had a penalty, increased penalty. I think the penalty in law currently was very minimal. I think it increased it to $1,000 first offense, and then it dumps that money into an account that the state runs for grant programs for victims of sex trafficking and exploitation. So full circle kind of program that's pretty common in Sacramento. What I didn't put on here, and this is why this bill was in the news for 4 straight days, dominating the news cycle in Sacramento, is that the Assembly member put a provision in here going back on a deal that was made last year that made purchasing the sex of a minor of age 16 and 17 a misdemeanor as opposed to a felony. And so that is current law right now, that it is a misdemeanor. And so she put in a provision to change it to a felony. She went back on deals that were made last year in order to do it. She got all the Republicans, she's a Democrat, but she got all the Republicans in Sacramento to support it, and it was a big deal. And so she went against the chair, the public safety chair, as the mayor was saying, against the speaker, against everybody, and she got her hand slapped pretty hard for it. She got the bill taken away from her, which is a move that the speaker has authority to do, but it is rarely executed in Sacramento, especially against their own party. So it was a very contentious couple days there about this bill. They were able to get into a room and agree to remove that provision, so it's still going to be a misdemeanor. However, the courts have it's a wobbler case where the judge has a judgment call to determine whether or not it's a misdemeanor or a felony based on certain circumstances. The idea, and I see a lot of question marks of why in the world it would be a misdemeanor. The idea behind the other side of the equation is that they really did not want this to be used for, again, transgender or LGBTQ plus relationships, legitimate relationships that are 19-year-old and 17-year-old, from high school, from school, and to be used unfairly as a, quid pro quo for commercial sex. So that was their argument against it. But I think that they were able to make some amendments to get everyone on the same page. So the bill is going to continue to move forward as it is right now. But it is good for us in that it's focus on that first bullet point when it comes to bringing in the intent back into the equation for the John side.
What was Newsom's statement in relation to that? Did that have any play in how their decision's going?
Yeah, it did. He doesn't like to get involved in legislation that's still moving, but he did have some statements about the bill. He's pro, he's pro making it a felony, I guess, is the end of the story on that. So he's definitely more on the moderate side than his party is in Sacramento when it comes to this. So that's not necessarily surprising given his actions lately. And then moving on to DC, very quickly, there's a lot going on as we talked about. I'll kind of focus on just a couple of these boxes, but we're still seeing a lot of funding freezes out of DC, still seeing a lot of grant programs being cut, still seeing a lot of staff being laid off, leading to a lot of out of office replies coming back from contacts. I think we're up to, I think we might be approaching 100,000 federal employees at this point when it comes to being laid off or no longer in the office right now working. But mainly what we've been focusing on is the change that DC's been trying to do when it comes to California sanctuary state statuses with immigration and tying some funding sources to cities of the state getting rid of our sanctuary state proclamations and SB 54 that we have, as well as climate standards. So, we've kind of seen a systematic rollback in climate standards out in DC. It's yet to be determined how much that's going to impact us on the ground. A lot of it's being held up in court right now and probably will for the next couple years. But I think the easy one that we can all digest is this advanced clean fleet regulation from California where you have to be transitioning your cars into electric vehicles. DC is trying to stop that. I don't think it's as easy as just an executive order. So as of now, I get this question a lot, but as of now, CARB still has authority to do what they're doing when it comes to requiring transition to electric vehicles, and they also have enforcement authority to make you do it. So keep that in mind as we're thinking about DC, California politics. I would still listen to whatever CARB is telling you because they do have authority over you the same way that DC does. And then we're moving into budget reconciliation season right now. So you've probably seen that term being thrown around quite a bit, but that is a term that bypasses the filibuster in the Senate. That requires 60 votes for anything to pass, which is why everything happens so slow in DC, is that, you have to have 60 votes in the Senate, which is very difficult along party lines. But budget reconciliation is a rarely used tool that bypasses all that and is able to do everything by a majority vote. It is kind of like the nuclear option, if you will, that was used a couple years ago and has unfortunately been reality for the last couple years. But we will see some significant changes in the budget when it is finished with budget reconciliation. The Republicans in DC are going to be able to do a lot of what they want in their agenda when it comes to rolling back tax credits for clean energy, maybe doing more tax cuts for wealthy individuals, moving the SALT cap has actually been a big piece that California Republicans have been pushing for this through this budget, which is actually a good thing for California. So lots to be determined there, but all of this, as we talked about before, will impact the state budget side as well. They're all kind of intertwined. And then moving on to our community project funding, this slide did not change much since the last time, but we have resubmitted all of the projects that we said we were going to resubmit, so they are officially done. I am cautiously optimistic that one of these will be chosen by Congressman Correa out in DC, or Senator Padilla or Senator Schiff, or all three. That'd be great. I think our best chance is the first one because it was chosen last year by Congressman Correa when it comes to his community project funding. So that's what we're looking for. I think he has to announce I want to say it's like 12 or 13 days from now, he has to release what he is putting forward to the Appropriations Committee. So we'll look forward to that announcement when the time comes. And then with that, I'm going to ask my colleague Anastasia to come up and give you a brief grants kind of recap of what's been going on lately and what's on the horizon.
Good evening, Mayor, members of Council. Like Eric said, my name is Anastasia Heaton. I'm also with Townsend Public Affairs, and I serve as the city's lead grants consultant. So this table right here gives you a high-level summary of our grants across the last a little over a year and a half, which is when I was brought on with the city at the end of 2023-ish. So in the last 18 or so months, we've seen a little over $4 million awarded in successful competitive grant funding for the city. And then if we go to the next, I have the controller. And then this is what we have in progress for the city right now. So this first one right here, we will actually be submitting this by the end of the week. It's due on Friday. This is to repave a segment of Western Avenue through SCAG's Surface Transportation Block Grant funding. And then we have a couple upcoming cycles that we are still eyeballing for potential projects. There's some arts programming funding for the community. There's some potential for pedestrian safety quick builds. And then as well, even though Eric brought the bad news with the state budget deficit and questionable things in DC, we still have the proposition for climate bond funding coming through the pipeline throughout the rest of the year. So that should result in some additional competitive grant funding for parks, for EV charging, various other natural resources and environmental funding opportunities there. So that should start to get rolled out in the summer with solicitations for applications mostly opening in the fall/early Q1 2026-ish. All that to say is, so just to give you a quick overview of how we structure our grants communications with the city, we have a monthly meeting with staff to go over upcoming funding opportunities, and we actually just had that on Monday. If we feel like there's something on the horizon the next couple of months that aligns with a priority project or a city program, we'll begin the process of drafting and submitting the application. And then once submitted, we follow up with the agencies to ensure they have everything they need and that we're up to date on any award statuses or follow-ups that are needed. Thank you guys all for your time today. If you have any questions, let us know. But, all right.
Yeah, I just want to ask real quick, on the SB 79, what are we looking at in terms of high-quality transit? That definition seems to have shifted many times over the years.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think they're very much, they are focused on, like your train stations and your BARTs and your, your rapid transit. I think what you're referring to is their high quality or rapid bus stations were theoretically included in some of that in the earlier drafts years ago from SB 35 and others. To my knowledge, OCTA bus routes do not qualify for SB 79. They're just not at a point that are rapid and predictable enough to meet the criteria that's in the bill. And I want to say something about, there's something in there about trains, about like 10 per day on the station is kind of a threshold. So I don't believe you're going to see a massive, 7-story buildings everywhere in Down Beach because of your buses. But I will confirm that because that is a big question mark.
Yeah, that concerns me, considering that bus stops are relatively every square block, and the perimeter zoning that they had before pretty much just meant if they passed it, anything and everything would be in that zoning.
Right.
Then the second thing was with the change in SB 634, permitting nonprofits to kind of do what they need to do. I'm thinking of like Santa Ana when they dealt with the needle exchange program and the years that they were fighting that. Could a nonprofit now just walk in and be like, okay, we're going to do it now?
Because Santa Ana has ordinance controlling it?
That's not an ordinance prohibiting it, but now if the law says that an organization can't do it, where would that?
That's a great, I haven't thought about it in the guise of the needle exchange program before. That's a really interesting thought, and I'm definitely going to go back and talk to my team about that. I would say that my sneaking suspicion is that the exact language of 634 when it comes to helping homeless probably does not include a needle exchange program. It probably includes things like food, water, shelter, basic health care, those kind of, but that's a great question. I can get back to you on that.
And that's what I'm concerned about in terms of how broad ranging it goes.
Right, because then otherwise the city would not be able to have that ordinance. Yeah.
Thank you.
The only funding that I'd like to see us look at is, the governor said that he's going to give $2 billion, right? So I would like to know how that's going to be distributed if we have to apply for it, or
Yeah.
can we go start asking today?
Yeah, so the governor's press conference he had yesterday was about Proposition 1. That is not, I just want to be clear, it's always confusing hearing him talk, because every time he talks, it's like it's a new thing. This is not new money. This is money that was passed by the voters last March. This is Prop 1 behavioral health bond money that is going out the door. So it is a exciting announcement for the governor that it is being awarded and hitting the streets, but it is not a new program that we have not previously considered, if that makes sense. So the first $3.3 billion, I believe, or something along those lines, was awarded. A couple hundred projects statewide for behavioral health treatment beds. As the mayor said, nothing in the city as far as I know. The next $1 million, I believe, is going to be put out to RFP or RFQ later this month, in May, maybe early June. So we will work with staff to see if there's projects that are eligible. But it really is more than, I think the provisions of the guidelines, the devils are in the details, but we can certainly work with staff to see if there is anything that fits with what the city is interested in. But it's probably going to be more of a partnership between NGOs, the city, nonprofits, et cetera, when it comes to bringing something to the community with that money.
Well, Prop 1 is the one that the schools have first call on, right?
Schools?
Schools also have that fund.
Not to my knowledge on the behavioral health bond funding. I
That's
didn't.
1A. But the other thing too is that why don't we get Fullerton, if they're interested, in putting something together and being one of those people up there presenting themselves as a nonprofit so that we could use it. In other words, if that's a way to get our foot in the door, let's take advantage of that.
Yeah, I think regional collaboration was one of the major selling points for this funding, and the governor's need for collaboration between entities scored you a lot of points on those applications. So it wouldn't surprise me if any of those applications that were funded were not. It would surprise me if they were not regional applications to begin with. But I think the County of Orange is taking, I would imagine, taking the lead countywide on this funding, because they have the resources and the land and the availability to be able to do some of these facilities.
Why do we have to have a partnership to get money for local government? Why can't local government get the money, then we go out and find our resource to do it? Because we know what's best for our city, we know what's going to work and what doesn't work. It's totally, it's an oxymoron, it's totally the opposite of what we're supposed to do. And it's been proven over and over and over again that it doesn't work.
I think he would say that homelessness and this mental health problem we're having is not city specific. It's transient, right? It's kind of across all borders.
It's actually our fault why we have it. Shame on us.
Any other questions?
Anybody else? As usual, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment on item? Let me get back to that.
We do have one more special presentation, sir.
I mean, to talk about we still have another presentation?
Yes, sir. Item 5D.
Oh, that's right, we put that one off. Am I right?
We did do that one. I did that
See?
one. I did that one last meeting. Now this is the next one. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the council. As the council is aware, for years the city has been working on addressing issues related to homelessness. Most of this effort happens on a daily basis out of view of our residents and businesses, but to ensure more transparency into our efforts and to better inform the community regarding the resources the council has directed to address these issues, I will be providing a monthly report on homeless outreach and other activities. For those interested in reviewing past reports, you can find those beginning in 2021 on the city's website at www.stantonca.gov under the Public Safety Department. The reports represent a very high-level summary of the efforts of over 10 employees who are dedicated in some manner to addressing homelessness-related issues. Tonight's report is for the month of April. Working as a team, the city engaged in 134 proactive total client encounters, with 18 of those being new client engagements. The team received 141 contacts from homeless individuals, advocates, service providers, and the Orange County Sheriff's Department for service assistance, coordination, and navigation. When contacted, the team provided the following services. They assessed the needs of the individual experiencing homelessness, offering shelter and connectivity to appropriate resources. They offered storage at the city's yard to individuals who seek shelter but cannot take all their articles with them. They clean up the debris and trash left behind and provide sanitation and public property repairs, and they provide residents and businesses with the outreach coordinator's direct contact information for further concerns or assistance. For the month of April, 130 offers of shelter were declined. Staff did receive 3 requests for shelter, but shelter beds were unavailable. 2 individuals were connected with interim housing opportunities, 2 with emergency motel assistance, 2 with mental health services, and 8 with benefits assistance. 1 individual was connected with a shelter bed, but they did not show up for their intake appointment. The highest priority areas in the city were, based on calls and field observations, Beach Boulevard and Chapman, Stanton Park, Beach and the Dale Flood Control Channel, Beach and Court, Cerritos and Western, and Tina Pacific. Sorry. Following our 3 real-life stories, excuse me. A longstanding female member of the homeless community in Stanton re-engaged with the outreach coordinators to complete her mental health evaluation process. Completion of the evaluation process will positively impact her placement on the housing list for permanent supportive housing. As part of this process, the client has received staff assistance scheduling and attending appointments with multiple layers of mental health professionals. A second story is regarding outreach coordinators who have been working with a member of the homeless community over the past 3 years. During these contacts, the individual received assistance completing the documentation process related to placement on the county's Coordinated Entry System housing list. Despite the efforts of staff, the individual was often unreliable and would lose contact with those providing assistance. However, based on the diligent efforts of our outreach coordinators, this individual recently received a placement at Aurora Vista in Stanton and is awaiting their move-in date. Finally, the reality of working with a chronically homeless community is that there are many roadblocks to a lasting placement. Despite the diligent efforts of the city's outreach coordinators, homeless individuals must see the value of the services offered. Recently, our outreach coordinators worked with an individual for placement at the Illumination Foundation. The individual resided at the location for approximately 1 month. Unfortunately, the client was unable to maintain compliance with regulations set forth by the operators of the facility. That individual has sadly returned to the streets in Stanton and has refused any additional services offered. While the city has allocated significant resources to outreach and has worked diligently to connect individuals to appropriate resources, the city does not tolerate antisocial or illegal behavior, regardless of the perpetrator. As such, the city, through its code enforcement, public works, and Orange County Sheriff's Department contract, continues to enforce all violations of the city's municipal code and state law to the full extent of the law. That concludes my staff report for this evening. Staff is available to answer any questions.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, the other day I saw OC Health out in the park again, talking with individuals. Can you speak to what their role is in our network?
OC Health. So the county oversees certain services that they provide to all county cities. And so they have limited staff right now, and they try to rotate out based on a type of schedule, but we can also initiate contact. So if we have an individual that we think is new to the city, that we think potentially hasn't been offered services before or hasn't made that connection, we can facilitate those arrangements. But they will regularly come out. They don't coordinate with us, and they'll come out to various hotspots. We are very much in communication and connected with Doug Becht and his team, so they know where the hotspots are in the city. And so most likely they were here on one of their routine visits to make contact. And they could have been doing some of the survey work. I know they're doing a survey right now out in the field. This is not the homeless count. This is specifically they're trying to understand how people fall into homelessness. So they're just talking to people who are willing to share their stories so they can start putting together a type of, I guess, database to better understand what those early causes are. Yes.
Have they released the counts yet on the homeless?
So the last count, was last year, and we did share those with the council. The next count isn't until next year.
Okay.
So I misspoke, and I think I had mentioned to the council before, I misunderstood this survey that I just referenced, and it was clarified that that is not a count, so we should not be alarmed if we see, groups from the county coming in, that they are just collecting stories.
We finally get 3 people that want beds, right? I thought the Illumination guaranteed us 10 beds.
So the Illumination Foundation guarantees us 2 beds. Each of the 3 facilities that the city has access to, the Buena Park Navigation Center, the Placentia Navigation Center, and Illumination Foundation, each of them have slightly different admission requirements. So they are not no barrier. They're considered low barrier, but you do have to abide by certain house rules. So, for example, the Illumination Foundation has a rule that your first 2 or 3 days that you're checked in, you must stay on the premises. You cannot leave and come back for just those first few days. And then after that, you can. The navigation centers each have requirements in terms of how much stuff you can bring in, can you bring in animals, where you need to, how you behave within the facility. So sometimes, and we do track if an individual is housed at one of the navigation centers and they can be expelled. It's kind of like a 3 strikes rule, and we do track that in the system, so then they are prohibited from coming back for a certain time period. So there are lots of factors that can weigh into it, and sometimes the individuals, when they experience, they want shelter beds, and then we actually provide the transportation or the arrangement. As I mentioned, they won't show up, or they were sometimes honestly saying that so that we would not engage with them in that way and then start turning our attention to trying to get them resources to get them set up. So there's a lot of reasons why that statistic might show up, and we don't always have the full story. I'm sure if we talk to our homeless outreach coordinators, they would be able to tell us exactly what happened with those 3 individuals.
That being said, it seems fruitless because if you're lucky enough to get somebody that wants to go, they have to fit the peg in the hole or they're not going to get in. Or they probably know what that peg is, and they just do that. And, I mean, it's like, this is a failure. This system is a failure. I mean, we're getting absolutely no value out of what we pay. I mean, that's just my personal opinion. Go ahead, John.
So I heard about our 2 shelters that we've invested into, and then the Illumination. Where are we at with Kramer? How is that being utilized? Are we still using bridges?
So the city's individuals experiencing homelessness, to get any type of placement. So, okay, the navigation centers have a separate admissions process. Kramer you have to go through the county's coordinated entry system. So the county maintains a list of all individuals experiencing homelessness who are eligible for some type of shelter, whether it's a navigation bed, permanent supportive housing, or something else. You have to meet certain criteria to even get on the list. And then once you're on the list, you have to be what's called document ready to then be eligible to be pulled off the list and placed in housing. So we have access to Kramer. We have access to a number of other solutions as well. The county has a weekly meeting where they sit down with all the stakeholders, which are the homeless outreach coordinators or their equivalents in every city, and they go through the list. The advocate from your city, so in our case, our homeless outreach coordinators must be present on the call. If they call your client and the advocate, the homeless outreach coordinator, is not present, then that individual loses the spot that day, and there's no guarantee when they'll get back on that portion of the list, which is a little bit extreme. And then they have to be document ready. They have to verify everything. They have to show up at the appointment time that they're given. So there is kind of a high bar. But we do have access to them. It just depends on what's open where and where our individuals are on the placement list.
Do we receive any data on how many people we're having transferred?
For the navigation centers, yes, we get a monthly report. It's a little bit difficult because the lack of permanent supportive housing means that our navigation centers, which were originally identified as holding people from anywhere from 60 to 90 days, we now on average hold people over a year because there's nowhere else to graduate them to. From the county side, they can provide statistics. They're very careful about releasing anything HIPAA or privacy related, but we can get broad statistics. So we've asked before, like, what is the makeup? Because our 3 project home keys are part of that community list, or I'm sorry, county list. So we've asked before what the current census is, so we can get that. So there is a way to get the data, but it is slow moving because there's nowhere for them to graduate to.
And that's what I was asking, is that we've had concerns at times about how many of our people in Stanton are being processed through OC Health, and ultimately, if they did get helped, that, you know, once they get into that network, they kind of vanish sometimes.
Our staff does an amazing job. I will say they're very engaged. They're very supportive. We sometimes struggle because our staff have a reputation for being so helpful that we'll get people coming in from other cities wanting to work with our staff because they're so dedicated. So it is hard, but it's only as helpful as the individual. Like, they have to be committed. They have to follow through on the tasks. They have to go get their identifying documents. They have to show up for the appointment. So we can do everything right, and then, you know, at any step along the way, if they choose to disengage, we basically kind of have to start over.
Okay, we're almost in this 6 months, right? Almost 6 months this year.
Oh, yes.
So how many people have we actually taken off the streets in 6 months?
I mean, we would have to go back and pull those. I don't know, but we...
Can you count on your hand?
Yes, well, 2 hands, probably. I think it's more than 5, maybe less than 10, because we have had success stories. For instance, we have this individual I mentioned today who's going to get their own private unit at Aurora Vista, right? So I think we probably had somewhere between 5 to 10.
I would estimate probably 5 to 6 per month, not including, I think where we do it, we get some numbers that don't really show up, are referring outside individuals to outside resources in context of, getting, for example, veterans resources or out-of-state resources, things of that nature that we're able to be successful with. So you're getting people off the streets, but it's not necessarily in our beds. So those numbers would show up differently, but I would, off the top of my head, I would say 5 to 8 monthly.
And how many stay?
Probably less than half.
Okay.
And it completely depends on, we've had trouble with, by no fault at all of the Illumination Foundation, but the manner in which their operation exists. We haven't been able to have individuals that were able to comply with those requirements. We've had folks get kicked out of some of the shelters. We've also, and kind of referenced earlier in the stats in terms of it's generally seen as not being able to match a bed at that time. There are timing requirements essentially throughout the day. So a lot of times we will engage with an individual who will indicate that they are ready for shelter towards the end of the day. And then when it comes the next day, when the bed is available, they're gone. So that kind of, it counts as that bed not being available that day at 2. So it kind of skews it a little bit. And as we've seen over time, each story is very individual in this regard.
Any other questions? Okay, is there anyone from the audience who would like to comment on special presentations and awards? Okay, moving on to consent calendar, we can take all of these items simultaneously unless a council member requests something be pulled. Did we receive any correspondence?
Mr. Mayor, we have none.
Well, 6F, 6M, and 6N.
I'd like to pull 6I. 6I.
Oh, and 6I, please?
And just to confirm, that's F, M, N, and I.
That F, M, N, I. Perfect. Anybody else? I'll move the balance.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody abstain? Anybody? Okay, thanks.
Okay. So, Mr. Mayor, we have item 6F, which is the March 2025 General Fund Revenue and Expenditure Report. Your questions for staff, sir?
Are these for improvements, or was this for demolition?
These are for improvements. The city, in its offering of voluntary off-site relocation, we're also offering internal on-site relocation to consolidate tenants so that we have more fourplexes that are fully occupied to help protect against some of the squatting that we are experiencing. However, based on the condition that some of the vacant units are in because of previous squatting activity, they were not in a condition in which we could do the consolidation without some type of property maintenance. So these are property maintenance. These charges were specifically for 3 units in a fourplex that were renovated, including their associated garages and a replacement of the roof. So the way we used these 3 units, if you recall, we had 2 families displaced by the fire. Those 2 families were initially put into emergency relocation at a motel. One family took the voluntary relocation out of the motel, never returned to Tina Pacific. The other family moved into one of these renovated units as soon as it was available. They were waiting in the motel until it was available. They are actually going to take the voluntary off-site relocation and will be moving out on the 23rd. The other 2 units right now, that one of them actually, we had 2 other fourplexes, each that only had 1 tenant and 3 vacant units surrounding that were regularly being broken into by homeless. So today we moved one of those individuals into the renovated unit, and then the other individual is receiving assistance through the City of Anaheim for subsidized housing. So they need to come out and do a tour of the renovated unit and approve the move for that individual for them to continue their services. And then we will have 2 completely vacant fourplexes after we do that move.
Okay, and who does is the management take care of the improvements, or do we handle that? In other words, who does the hiring and the billing?
So QMG does it on behalf of the city. They go out and procure 3 quotes, and we select the lowest priced quote.
Okay. Is the is everybody paying rent there? That was my next question. Because I was just looking at how much this costs versus how much we get in rent. It seems like a no-win for us.
I would agree with that statement. The majority of tenants are currently paying rent. The rent amounts have not been increased along with the market for, in some cases, over 10 years. So they are below market rents. We are working with the property management group to address that in the upcoming fiscal year.
If it's okay with the rest of the council, maybe we could, whenever you get some time, no big hurry, just give us a financial breakdown of cost, income, ratios, how much we're getting in income, who's delinquent and stuff like that, so we can get an overall look at what the fiscal impacts are.
Yeah, the overall status is in each monthly report, but I can give you like X number of tenants are behind on rent and how much the amount is that they owe.
So we can see what this is costing us in the long run. The longer this gets dragged out, we keep wasting the money. It's ridiculous. The money that we could be using to help people is now just going down the tank. Anyway, thank you. I'll go ahead and move item 6F. All in favor? Aye. Anybody say no, or anybody abstain? Thank you.
And the next item is 6I, renewal of the declaration for the conditions arising from the damage of the bridge. Councilmember Taylor, your questions for staff, sir?
When are we opening?
So I'm happy to share that this Thursday we'll be officially opening the bridge. This Thursday we're having a photo op at 1 o'clock, so join us, take a picture, and we'll get to walk down the new bridge.
Second. All in favor? Anybody abstain? Anybody object? Okay, that passes.
Thank you. The next item is item 6M, the acceptance of the Stanton City Hall Fire Alarm Upgrade Project. Mr. Mayor, your questions for staff, sir.
I think I remember Donald saying that he asked something about cameras in the city hall or something like that.
Oh, yeah,
Long time
in the
ago?
council chambers, yeah.
So my question is, since we're putting in a new fire alarm system, why don't we put in at least the wiring for cameras? Because now I know that they have fire protection, all that in one package. So if we're going to wire the city for fire alarms, why don't we also, not necessarily buying the cameras, but have that available so that we don't have to go back and reinvent the wheel by pulling the wiring in?
So the project is actually complete. Tonight's item is to accept notice, but we did install cameras last year in the lobby area. So we do have cameras. They're not back in the staff area, but we do have cameras in the lobby area. And I have to say our IT team has done a great job. You know, they installed cameras recently at Stanton Central Park as well, and in other around the yard we were having some issues with break-ins from individuals. So there's some, I'm not a super IT techie person, but there is great solutions whereby it is pretty inexpensive and impressive what the type of cameras we can get. Honestly, the most expensive thing about having cameras these days is because we're a public agency, we have records retention requirements, and it's to buy the data to store the video footage. So you can either do it ongoing without any recording at all, and it's just constantly just looking. But if you start to save any of it, you have to save it for a minimum of 2 years. And so you can start thinking every single camera has to be saved for 2 years. So we do have cameras in the City Hall lobby area, though.
We can't do anything like in regards to motion sensors.
I would have to look into that and see. We probably could, but then whenever it comes on, that still would need to be kept for 2 years.
Okay. Any other questions? I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor? Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Thank you. That passes.
The last and final item from the consent calendar is 6N, Award of Professional Services Agreement to all city management services for crossing guard services. Mr. Mayor, your questions for staff, sir.
Hey, I got an education on this today. Thank you for that, HD. We're kind of locked into this because from what the attorney tells me is that once you start paying this thing and then you take it away, it's not a good thing. My only question is are the other cities paying into the cross guards? In other words, as an example, 82 cents of every tax dollar that we get goes to the school district. So the city actually ends up getting about 7 cents of every dollar in tax money. So they actually get a lot of money for this. They also get state funding.
A lot of students.
Yeah, but in other words, they're paying $5,000, we're paying $38,000 as an example. I was just curious if there's some way that we could find out if everybody's paying an equal amount. Not necessarily us versus the school district, but 3 of those schools are not even in our city, as we go through it.
So, Mayor, we did research that question. I just want to clarify, if you look at the cost-sharing breakout for this particular proposal, the city of Stanton, over the course of the contract is paying, over the course of the year is $34,000. Savannah is $5,700 because they only have one intersection. And Magnolia actually pays almost $29,000. They have 3 intersections. So right now, the split with the existing intersections is the city is 2/3 and the school district is 1/3. This contract go around, Magnolia asked to add an additional intersection at Dale and Cerritos, and our staff did an amazing job and negotiated. So Magnolia is paying 100% of the costs of the crossing guard services for that intersection. We did reach out to both Savannah and Magnolia this afternoon. All their other services that are provided, the cities don't ask for any cost sharing. So we are the only city that is getting any contribution towards crossing guard services from these school districts.
Yeah, we did give them $150,000 crosswalk though. Remember that one we put in up there? But
Can we look into maybe getting like a grant for this?
We can, but I will tell you, usually grants want you to offer new services. They usually don't backfill existing municipal services.
So I know that the zebra crosswalk on, what is that school, Cerritos, I think?
Okay.
I know that zebra crosswalks are not all that safe. Maybe we could look into maybe like
So
making
if-
it safer, like the
Yes,
infrastructure.
so
of the
something like
street.
that would be new if we wanted to put in a new type of crosswalk, so we can look and see if there's grant funding for that.
Would it be able to also get funding for somebody or some safety mechanism, let's say, where?
A mechanism or equipment, potentially, yes, most likely not another person. But yeah, if there's some type of like flashing lights or auditory signal and there's equipment that relays that, we could potentially look into that. So we can let Anastasia know that we're interested in looking for grants related to that. And if we see an opportunity, certainly we could pursue that.
because they actually, the kids from Tina Pacific, they walk all the way up and then they have to go across Cerritos and then they have to go up. But we put that light in, you know what that means, right? And that's been really a good thing there. The one at Cerritos School is for the kids walking from the housing track on the other side, but most of them come from this way. And there's very few that go across Cerritos at night to go down that side there, because that's Anaheim. I just wondered if Anaheim was paying for any of that. Probably not. Go ahead, John.
Thank you. Thank you, staff, for doing the work here. I mean, this item's come up a lot of times over the years, and I'm really impressed that we managed to get this arrangement at this point in time. Okay, I'll speak up. No, I looked at the different schools, and I noticed that Hanson is distinctly outside of Stanton, but we're helping the kids at the crosswalk that's in Stanton, south of the school. There is a crosswalk at the school, but that is in Anaheim, so I imagine Anaheim is helping with that crosswalk, where we're helping with the crosswalk south of it. So I could see there might be some confusion at times in terms of how we're providing these services. So we're not paying for Anaheim's share, we're paying for our share. So, thank you again.
Favor? Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
That ends our consent calendar.
Correct.
Public hearings. AB 2561, vacancy, recruitment, and retention efforts. I think we have to report this every so many years, don't we?
It's our first time.
Yes, we do. We have Ms. Cynthia Guzman here at the podium to present the staff report this evening. Ms. Guzman, if you can just test the microphone for me, please. One more time. If you can try turning it off and then on. And then test it one more time.
Test 1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
Thought you woke everybody up. Snoozing.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. Tonight I will be presenting item 7A, AB 2561, vacancy, recruitment, and retention efforts. AB 2561 was approved on September 22, 2024, and became effective on January 1, 2025. AB 2561 was enacted to standardize reporting on job vacancies, recruitment, and retention efforts across agencies. This legislature determined that vacancies are a widespread problem in the public sector and require employees to take on heavier workloads, resulting in burnout and increased turnover, which negatively impact the delivery of public service. Lastly, this law aims to enhance transparency and provide a framework for assessing and addressing staffing levels. AB 2561 imposes 3 key requirements on local agencies. Number 1, At least once each fiscal year, an agency's governing board must hold a public hearing and receive the agency's report on the status of vacancies and recruitment and retention efforts prior to the final budget adoption. Number 2, during the hearing, the agency must identify any necessary changes to policies, procedures, and recruitment activities that may lead to hiring obstacles. The third and last requirement states that the agency must allow the recognized employee organization for a bargaining unit to make a presentation at the hearing. Please note that this requirement does not apply to the city, as we do not have any bargaining units. So now let's talk about our current vacancies. As part of the current fiscal year mid-year budget process, City Council approved a total of 57.02 full-time equivalent staff positions, which consist of 45 full-time and 25 part-time positions. As of May 1st, 3.4 positions are vacant, representing an overall vacancy rate of approximately 5.9%. Of the 45 full-time positions, only one position is vacant, and that is an assistant planner position. Of the 25 part-time positions, 5 are vacant, 2 recreation leaders, 2 senior recreation leaders, and 1 parking control / code enforcement specialist. Recruitment efforts are ongoing for 4 of the 5 current vacancies. And I'd like to note that AB 2561 also requires that during the hearing, the agency must identify any necessary changes to policies, procedures, and recruitment activities that may lead to hiring obstacles. At this time, staff has not identified any necessary changes to policies and procedures that may present obstacles in the hiring process. So the city continues to take steps in support of recruitment and retention. For recruitment, the city adheres to established government hiring practices and compliance requirements. Our job openings are posted on the city's website and governmentjobs.com to ensure transparency and accessibility. We also use industry-specific job boards and professional associations, depending on the position and target applicant pool. The city also accepts job interest cards, which notify candidates when a position of interest is open. In addition, HR also collaborates with PIO staff to enhance social media outreach and broaden applicant engagement. For retention, recent and ongoing efforts include personnel rules updates and salary adjustments through the annual budget process, alternative work schedules via the city's flexible workplace program, which was approved by City Council in May of 2021. Also, employee recognition and appreciation initiatives via several employee special events that we hold throughout the year. Staff continues to employ modern and efficient recruitment processes to fill vacant positions and will continue to review to look for ways to improve effectiveness. The recommended actions for this evening are that City Council declare that the project is exempt from CEQA and open the public hearing and receive public input and receive and file this report. This concludes my report for the evening, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone in the public who would like to speak on item 7A, reference to AB 2561? Have we received any correspondence?
Mr. Mayor, we have none.
Close the public hearing. Bring it back to you guys.
I think one of the biggest things for retention is where we are comparable to what we pay out. It reminds me of the school district I work in, where we were losing a lot of staff because we are one of the lowest paying districts in the state. How do we compare and pay with our surrounding cities?
Thank you, Councilmember Barrio. So we do compensation market studies. And so what that entails is every year we pick a majority of our classifications and we benchmark them against all the other Orange County cities that have the same classification. So historically, the city, I think in recognition of some financial difficulties starting in 2012, held the compensation for positions at a very modest level that resulted in us being consistently in the bottom quartile of all Orange County cities. I think about the time I got here 3 years ago and we started doing these studies and looking at the financial position of the city at that time, we realized we were in a position where we could start doing some catch-up work. So the council very graciously addressed some of those issues through cost of living increases that staff had not had for many years. So I think we've had, 3 years ago, I think we had a 5% increase. 2 years ago, we had a 4% increase, I believe. And we are slowly trying to maintain our market position, if not increase it. So we try to highlight some of the other benefits of working at Stanton, such as our 4-day work week, our 410. We also have a remote work from home policy where if your position allows that you can ask for up to 1 day of remote work. Of course, myself and all the directors, we try really hard to have an environment and a culture that employees really enjoy being in and spending most of their waking hours in. The council has been very gracious over the years, and we have a very strong benefit program. So we benchmark to Kaiser. And so an employee has the opportunity to pick a health program that is fully covered if they choose to. There are programs that you would have to pay out of pocket, but we do benchmark. So that's a very strong piece of the total compensation. So, I think it's hard when you're a smaller city with limited resources and you try to do the best you can to keep up with the other cities because, of course, it's hard to make sure that some of those higher salary ranges do not lure your employees away, and that will happen, and that's okay. But we do try to make it up with some of the other not base salary benefits that we can offer. I will say, one of the areas that we're very strong in is our part-time positions. So because the state mandated certain minimum wage increases, when we were holding all of the full-time positions steady and not offering increases, we did increase our part-time positions because we had to. So as a result, for our part-time positions, we're usually in the top 5 of the 34 Orange County cities. And so we have addressed that through differential COLA increases. So starting with last year, we gave the council awarded a different COLA to full-time classifications versus part-time classifications. I believe over the years, in keeping up with cost of living and minimum wage, our part-time positions had increased about 45%. And our full-time classifications had about 20%. So there was a significant delta. So now we're kind of trying to address that. And, we don't need to be the top of the market, but we're happy that those classifications are there. And we are trying to, again, maintain marketplace for our other classifications. It's hard when every other city is in negotiations and offering significant increases.
Which position are we not recruiting for?
At the moment, it's the part-time parking control / code enforcement specialist. And
For that?
So we're utilizing, as you know, our contract parking enforcement. And so we're looking at, before we rehire this position, what is the true coverage requirement, since we now have, every day we have 12-hour coverage in the evenings. And so we're trying to see what's the most efficient way to reprogram that city body versus the contract services. So Director Wren and I will take, probably the next 6 months to kind of assess operations and see where it would make sense to reallocate or refill that position.
Regarding recruitment, what do we typically see as a pool of candidates that we'll see for either our part-time or full-time position in the city?
It depends on the season. It depends on the position. I will say we get a lot of applications, like number-wise. But then when you start looking at which of those are actually qualified, that significantly, so we'll get, let's say, 100 applications for any opening, but about maybe 10 to 15% are actually qualified and would actually be candidates we would want to interview. So there's definitely interest in the job market. But I think we've had a really good run recently. We've had some really great new hires. We actually do a good job of grabbing people from other cities too. So, we're definitely competitive. We're definitely competitive.
I just told Paul, I just put him in charge of adopt a crossing guard program.
Me and Shaver will be there in the morning.
Volunteers.
No, me and Shaver will do it.
Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds good to me.
That's in his district, that's too dangerous.
Me and Gary can switch out every once in a while.
Okay,
Thank you, Cynthia.
Thank you.
now the state is happy and we're safe.
As long as we can get a motion in a second, we are.
Okay, we have to roll call this one, right? This is a roll caller, right?
Voice vote would suffice.
Aye. Anybody object? Okay. All right. We're now going to unfinished business, which we have none. New business 9A. Approval of the Second Amendment of the Waste Disposal Agreement with the County of Orange, or WDA.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the council. The city and the county have historically provided for the management of municipal solid waste through waste disposal agreements, WDAs, through which cities bring their waste to Orange County's landfills in exchange for low, predictable disposal rates. The current waste disposal agreement between Orange County cities, including Stanton, and the County of Orange was originally entered into in 2009, amended in 2016, and expires on June 30th, 2025. In November 2024, Orange County Waste and Recycling introduced a proposed successor agreement at the Orange County City Managers Summit. The agreement proposed increasing landfill disposal rates from $42.65 to $82 per ton, a 92% increase. The agreement also proposed establishing a rebate program for composted organic waste and allocating funds for organics recycling infrastructure at county landfills. After reviewing the initial successor agreement, the Orange County City Managers as a group expressed their concern regarding the lack of engagement and communication during the development process. As a result, OCWR agreed to a 12-month extension to the current agreement, which includes a modest 2.6% disposal fee increase. And this extension will allow all stakeholders to complete their due diligence, review costs, evaluate infrastructure plans, and assess future fee adjustments. So we anticipate having a renewed agreement template, hopefully by September, October of this year, and that will come back before all of the councils of Orange County. That concludes my staff report. Staff is available to answer any questions.
How are they able, or how did they justify that huge increase?
So that was part of our question when it was presented to us, and we wanted to have more time to delve into the calculations, to understand the data that they were using, to gather some more feedback from the city managers who are representing each of their cities and the constituents of the councils. So that was exactly part of our question.
Places to put this stuff?
That is also part of our question. So I think the problem was there wasn't a lot of communication until the agreement was presented to us. So we want to look at the infrastructure. We want to look at the issues that they say they're challenged by and why they need these increases. Any other questions?
The mayor's front yard.
The League of California Cities is having Trash Talk, a symposium. I think if you really want to get into it, it's going to be good because Tom Carulius, the head of the department, is going to be there. The CEO of CRR will be there. Julie, she'll be there. Waste Management will be there. And the representative from the city managers will be there. It's going to be very informative.
Those trash trucks are loud. The trash trucks are loud.
I take that as an insult.
Anyway, I just got back on that board, so we're going to try to figure out the WISE contract. And right now, they can't substantiate a 45% increase. In fact, we shouldn't even be getting a 2.6% increase, just so you know. But anyway, that's life. Any other questions? All right, is there a motion?
I just wanted to say good job to the OC City Managers Association. I mean, good job.
Appreciate Chris Macon of Laguna Woods took the lead on that, and he did a very good job of representing the cities.
50%. Okay, motion.
Motion by Councilmember Warren and a second by Councilmember Barrios.
Okay, and we have to recall this one, right?
Voice vote would suffice, sir. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, Mr. Mayor? Item passes 5-0.
Okay. Now we come to the happy time of oral communication. At this time, members of the public may address the City Council, the successor agency, Stanton Housing Authority regarding any items in our subject matter jurisdiction of the city, successor agency, housing authority. No action can be taken on non-agenda items. Do we have any correspondence?
Mr. Mayor, we have none.
Is there anybody in the audience who would like to address us on anything within our jurisdiction?
Hearing none, seeing none, sir.
Okay. Any comments? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. We have no written communications. Mayor, council initiated business. Committee reports, council agency announcements. Go ahead, John.
Can we have our community services director talk about paint the town with love?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So last Saturday, May 3rd, we gathered at Central Park. We had about 150 volunteers that braved the rain that we were anticipating but hoping wouldn't happen. And we did a number of different beautification projects in the city. Some of the painting projects had to be delayed, so we are re-strategizing to work with volunteer groups to do that throughout the year. We have some volunteers that already finished one of the projects at the FRC this week. We're very grateful to a number of sponsors that were able to make this happen. We had some of those sponsors come out and volunteer, the Lions Club, Home Depot. We had Starbucks come and donate. All Metals Processing, Jamboree Housing, TPA, a big community-wide effort, and we're grateful for the support from City Council.
Thank you, to you and your staff for putting that on. I mean, the quick sudden change due to inclement weather, again, that was a challenge your team headed on quite well. So congratulations to everyone on that, and thank Councilmember Taylor for coming out. Myself, we got to go in the inflatable bubble.
The photo booth was amazing. That was different.
And thanks to the Lions Club for coming out, and the team from Home Depot that came out to help. That was pretty awesome. And the only other thing I'm going to add is that the Stand Car Show was this Saturday, May 17th, at Rodeo 39.
The breakfast was great.
But I hope everybody can make it to the Stanton Car Show. I'm excited.
You guys melt in the rain.
Melt in the rain? Oh. Well, I mean, I just love how we have so many people from different places coming to our car show. You know what I mean? Like, we have people from Las Vegas and everything. But, yeah.
Okay, any other announcements? Council agency authority initiated items for a future meeting.
That would be me. I'd like to propose that we take a look at red light cameras in the city. Garden Grove's using them, Los Alamitos is using them, and it's would be a safety issue, really. We're not sure whether we can use them on beach boulevards. We'd have to look at that. You never heard of red light cameras? Okay. They do use them in the county, and they do make people a little bit more aware of stopping at red lights. So it is a safety issue for the city.
Where the lights are.
I believe,
Camera where
yeah.
the lights are with a
Photo enforced
a sign
intersections.
and everything, yeah.
I thought the courts did away with.
No.
It's kind of a touch and go with the courts, though.
No, not on those. They're legal. The ones that we can't put up, which is the one I would like to put up, are the speeding ones. But they're not legal at the moment. They're being tested in certain cities, and it'll be done in 2033 on the test.
Correct. So at this time, you're just looking for red light photo enforced cameras, correct?
Correct. I sent you a,
Yes, you did.
Okay.
We're confirmed on that. Just.
I'd just like to get this, we'll put it on a future meeting and see if you guys agree.
So at this time, we're just agendizing it for the
I
next
think that
item
would
to be
good to
discussed.
find out if Caltrans would let us do it, though.
On beach, yeah, that would be
Yeah,
interesting.
that's
I doubt
what-
it.
But
I
that's
just
what we
doubt it.
Discuss at the next meeting
We
in
can
May.
ask.
What does our city attorney have to say?
Mayor and council, this is a, just an initiation of the item, and a full discussion could be had. So this is not an agendized Brown Act item, so it would just be for the council to get consensus to put it on the next agenda.
I would also like to agendize maybe as optimizing our Zoom feature. I feel like every time I look at like our council meetings on YouTube, I can't hear out of my iPhone, and then I go and switch to my iPad, and it's still difficult to kind of hear. You know, I don't know if it's like a thing on my end, but I feel like the recordings are a little bit not optimized, yeah.
Yeah, so just a low volume. You do have to have your volume all the way up. So tonight actually is a test meeting. I will be sending you this recording. We had our audio company come out last week, so they addressed that same issue.
Perfect.
So I will be providing them a recording of this meeting, and they'll test it from there. But yes, we are
Perfect.
addressing that.
Oh,
Did you
awesome.
still like to agendize that, or?
Totally
Perfect.
fine. You're on it.
Thank you. Currently, we have 3.
Okay, I'd like to agendize for our next council meeting a program that I have been talking about for several months. It is having the city contract out with private security to help with enforcement of only our city ordinances, not doing anything to do with criminal activity. Where that we take a look at things that are within our jurisdiction as a local government. The reason I want to do this is on a temporary basis because we have summer coming up, and I think it's important that we're in the process of hiring our new deputies, which are going to have to go through a training period. And then at that particular time, as we move forward till we have our full implementation of our new staff, with our sheriff's department, we'll be able to take care of things like our parks, our right-of-ways, buildings that we have in the city, and things like that, where we can actually take care of some of the concerns that our residents have been complaining about now recently. I have noticed a remarkable improvement in what our sheriff's department is doing with our quality of life issues within Stanton. I think this being on a temporary basis will help us get to where we need to be, so when we make that transition into having a fully staffed sheriff's department, we'll be in pretty good shape.
Mayor, I think that this is, the description is, I think, enough for the council
Can I give
to.
you the name? I won't give the name.
How about we wait until it's on
I
the
was going to
next?
tell them if anybody wants to come up for a name for it, they can volunteer, that's all.
That could be part of the discussion for the next meeting when it's on an agenda.
Okay, good. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, 4-1.
This time, it's just a request to agendize. At the next
Are you
meeting,
gonna
we'll
write
come
that?
back for discussion and possible consensus.
To
if it's
agendize
at.
it? I mean, yeah, that's a democratic process, but yeah.
Well, thank you. Don't ever shake your head. I take it as a vote. Okay, moving along. Anything for a future study session? Items from the attorney?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I have no items.
Manager?
Just a reminder for the public that we will be having our budget workshop at the next council meeting of May 27th, starting at 6:30. Thank you.
You gonna feed us?
We are going. You are going to feed, right? Trish, are we going to offer food?
I don't know what we did.
I can't remember now if we said we were. I don't think we're feeding. Did we last time? Okay, we are. From the value menu.
Before we have our fire report, I just have a couple of comments. I do want to thank the staff for assisting in a team effort to remove a certain particular business from the Home Depot area. And since then, it's made a whole world of difference for the business owners, for the people that walk that area, and also for the homeowners in the area. So we've been, that was a team effort. That was really a great job. I'm glad that took. Huh?
Getting rid of the liquor store?
It was a business in Stanton that we removed.
Okay, sorry. I didn't know it was a secret, I'm sorry.
I will tell you that the other thing I'm very proud of is, we're always kind of a leader in a lot of stuff, and a lot of that's because of our staff. They come up with some great ideas. But the one that we just talked about recently, we're getting inquiries from across the state on what our drone program is going to be like for fireworks.
Oh, really?
Everybody's holding their breath because I think it's becoming very popularized right now. So it'll be interesting to see how we do with it as we move forward, if we decide to go with it and how it works out. But I just want to let you know, there
I
is
saw
a
the ad on our website.
yeah, but there's a lot of interest in the state right now on Stanton. So just thought I'd throw that out. Okay. Chief, you're up. Tell us about all the wonderful things that we had happen in the last 4 days.
All right. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, city staff. It's my pleasure to provide the following OCFA operational report for April 2025. The OCFA responded to a total of 373 incidents within the city during the month of April 2025. 6 fires, 236 medical aids, 20 traffic accidents, and 111 miscellaneous calls, equaling a total of 373. The OCFA responded to a total of 15 incidents within the unincorporated Orange County, serviced by Engine and Medic 46, 11 medical aids, and 4 miscellaneous calls. There were 2 significant incidents within the city of Stanton for April 2025. On Tuesday, April 8, 2025, at approximately 1947 hours, we received a report of a single vehicle versus a tree and launched into TC Cut and Rescue. We worked concurrently with the sheriffs, and they advised us that one person was trapped in the vehicle. The incident was balanced to a TC Cut and Rescue. Truck 85 arrived on scene and extricated the patient. One patient was taken in critical condition to local trauma center. And on Saturday, April 19, 2025, at approximately 1914 hours, units were dispatched to a cut and rescue response for unresponsive and trapped patient as a result of a traffic collision. We arrived on scene. There was a total of 4 patients. All 4 were transported in serious condition to local trauma centers. And assisting agencies, as always, was the Orange County Sheriff's Department. This April's safety message was focused on water safety and barbecue grill safety as the approaching summer months come along. You can find that information on our website, mainly focusing on drowning and drowning prevention. A couple things we'd like to remind everybody of, as far as drowning prevention goes: never rely on water wings, rafts, or other swimming aids in place of U.S. Coast Guard approved life jackets. Keep infants and toddlers and non-confident swimmers within arm's reach. If a child or adult is missing, check the water first. Always learn first aid and CPR. This is Drowning Prevention Month. Unfortunately, over 4,500 people died of drowning last year in this country, and in this county alone, we had over 100 drowning incidents last year. 56 of those resulting in, unfortunately, in fatalities. Most of those things could have been prevented with some proper education. For kids, it's the leading cause of death, traumatic death in this county for children under the age of 5. Some safety tips for kids, as we always teach, are never allow your child to swim alone, even if they're good swimmers. If they can't swim, always keep them in arm reach. Make sure you have gates up and around your pool at all times and make sure they're locked. If you are having a party or a gathering, consider going down to your local pool and hiring a lifeguard or have a water watcher, a designated adult. For adults, learn how to swim. There's over 40 million adults in this country who do not know how to swim. Never swim alone. And it's very beneficial, not only for drowning prevention, for everyone else to always consider learning CPR in case you come across someone who's drowning. This concludes my Orange County Fire Authority Operation Report, and I'm available for any questions.
Few incidents we had quite a few incidents the last few weeks, and we had no injuries to any of our personnel, right? That's what the report I got.
No injuries.
Yeah. Anyway, tell them that it would seem like it was, every 5 minutes. So tell them that they're doing a great job, because a lot of the people that they helped have expressed that to us. So if you would thank the 46, we would appreciate it. 85, the neighbors, that would be great.
Well, and that will be provided in the next month's update in May. So,
all right, great.
Thank you.
Okay, tonight I'm going to be adjourning the city council in honor of probably one of our dearest and most famous. I call him famous because Bud Heitman knew everything in the city for the last 90 years. He could tell you about when they used to get the chickens off the corner at Catellan Beach so that the wagons could get out of Orco Block. And he could tell you about his family, that his wife used to teach at the local school. He knew everything about this city. He could tell you where every crack was. I had the good fortune of seeing him about 5 days before he passed, and it was unexpected. And I always said, Bud, you and I need to sit down so I can write the history of Stanton. I got a little bit of it, but I didn't get enough of it, and I regret that. I'll let everybody know when the services are and they come up. But, he'll be remembered as one of the forefathers of our community, as just being a resident citizen. He served on our planning commission for many years. He always had an interest in what we always did. His wife, of course, was on our Parks and Recreation Commission. And so between the two of them, they helped shape Stanton as it is today. So I'm going to be doing that. We'll invite their family to come pick up their certificate, and we'll talk a little bit about them. Okay? Anybody else?
I served on one of the planning commission.
Go ahead, John.
Every now and then, you lose somebody that hits pretty close to home, and I've always admired chatting with Bud. He's one of the few residents that would be able to tell me about how the trolley system operated back in the day when it was still operating in Stanton. He's really a legend who put himself out there to do the best he could for the community. And I've always admired about that. And personally, I always had fun chatting with him. And for a while there, he knew I was doing work in the front yard of the house, and he would sneak through the gate and sometimes wait out there for half an hour without even telling me. And he would just roll in and be like, "How you doing?" It's like, "Bud, can you just call ahead of time?" It would save everybody a lot of time. But, one little secret I'll say is if you ever had a chance to sit on their patio, it was decorated with all the 60th anniversary banners. So if anybody's looking for those, they're over there on Bever. So I really admire Bud.
Do you live on Star Street? No.
Okay, I'm going to adjourn in honor of Bud Heitman.
He just used to tell me about his house and how
Xenia.
stuff.